I don't know a lot about makeup. I was raised in a household where I played outside a lot, and my mom, I think, kind of identifies or did identify as a tomboy when she was young, and I sort of did as well. And I don't know if it was just because my mom's mom or guardian, once she was adopted, never taught her, and she just didn't know, and so she didn't know what to teach me either. But we were in a household of wearing a lot of makeup beyond the basics, mascara, that kind of thing. Concealer if you have like a spot or whatever. And so doing the first makeup tutorial with Madiha, I just kind of put on makeup because for me that is sort of a form of drag, because makeup itself is kind of a mask, and I just kind of looked the way any person would look if they made a modicum of effort to leave before leaving the house. And I just sort of been thinking about what my drag character would look like, because in essence, traditional drag characters is a construction of cis men, even though it's queer cis men, and even though it is within itself in that context very subversive and liberating, from what I understand, and from people I've spoken to who have described, from drag artists that I've talked to who've expressed their artistry to me. But being a bio queen in particular, I wonder what that means if I define what female is from within it. And in many ways that means deconstructing every single male narrative that exists about what makes a white female, because white females in the West are highly visible. Naked white female bodies are one of the most visible tropes in visual art, and dating back centuries, and I think there's no exception when it comes to ads and films and and the arts in general, music, and I think that's changed in very recent history to some extent, but I feel like the representation of someone that looks like me is very prevalent. And so in a way, because it is so prevalent, and because it is almost universally and historically been constructed by white cis males as the authors of that construction, I feel like I'm often told what I am. It is prescribed to me what I am. I, as a female, a white female, have to exist within Western, in the context of America, Puritan capitalist culture, in a very certain way, and it feels like I have to exist. I'm told what I am, and if I try to deny that, then people don't like that. For example, I think some of the most interesting women I observe in the public sphere and popular culture, I mean, they're all interesting, but a really interesting pattern that really fascinates me is the pattern in which a woman is told she is something and then she just leans into it and does it. So, for example, the first person that comes to mind is Paris Hilton, or Dolly Parton's song Dumb Blonde. There are women, white women, within white Western American Puritan capitalist culture, which is a very specific context I'm talking about, that lean in to that trope of whatever it is that they're told they are. And I feel like sometimes when I was my most visible, when I was making music, when I was younger, and gigging regularly, I feel like when I was my most visible and most powerful, that was when people at most were telling me who I was or how I felt. And it was really frustrating. And And I really wish I could get that back. I feel like what I've done ever since is I've hidden. I've been hiding. And now that I'm, past the age of 30, I'm expected to become invisible. It's always interesting within Western culture. I'll just speak from my own perspective. If I don't specify, it's always my own perspective. But within like Western culture, within the people I'm around in my day-to-day life, I've not been asked this. Well, maybe I have, but people ask if I would take my partner's name if we ever got married. And the thing about that question, because it is a tradition, and I get that, and some traditions are really lovely. And the truth is my surname that I have now is my father's name. It is just another man's name. But the thing that strikes me is I just go from one man's identity, the property of one man, to the property of another. And I feel like women, once they reach a certain age, they move from being the father's property to the husband's property. And this is speaking in purely cisgender heteronormative tropes here. But then you become a wife and a mother, and then you become defined in relation to other people as opposed to as something in your own right. And especially because I'm getting older and I only feel like I'm getting started on my artistic journey, I am freaked out that I feel like I'm supposed to disappear and only be defined through other people, even though I'm just getting started. That frightens me, that saddens me. And the more I thought about it in terms of makeup, it is really wonderful to feel beautiful. One way in which I don't really feel beautiful is I have an asymmetrical face. My nose is not symmetrical, and that feels like that's an unspoken thing. It's required, and in a way, I kind of hate it. I feel like it makes me look distorted, like it's a representation of me being distorted or something. And I realize that a lot of the time, a woman's market value is her beauty and her youth. And I feel like I haven't reached my potential yet, and the feeling that it might be too late because the world no longer wants me or has any use for me really angers and frightens me. I've had a wonderful life. I've been very privileged, but it makes me sad to feel like it's over at this point, just because of the age that I'm at. That's what I feel. And what I realized was that my feeling about my beauty, my femininity, when I see ads and when I see these gorgeous photoshopped, women like, Kim Kardashian with the symmetry and the contouring and the shapeliness and the beautiful clothes and the clear skin and the wrinkle-free face and spot-free face. And I look at myself next to those women, I feel like a child. I feel like a little kid who is trying to fake it. And maybe that's because I'm a very playful person and I really enjoy like childlike play when I'm creating my work. But I feel like a little kid, and I almost feel pathetic even trying to aspire to the beauty standards of these women, because it's literally, I do not have the resources, and I don't know if I have the interest, at least not to do as much. I'd love to be able to get regular facials and to, do things to take care of myself. But it feels like a farce. It feels like diminishing returns. It feels it feels like existential dread, and women are expected to stay young. We're not allowed to age, but we're not allowed to show any effort. We're not allowed to show the work that it takes to stay young. And I wish women did, because it's hard work, I think. I imagine that a lot of these women in the public sphere are probably in pain a lot of the time, whether it's because they're wearing heels or corsets or have undergone some kind of surgery or chemical treatment on their face or laser removal of something or other, like hair or veins or whatever it is. I wish that someone would show the work that goes into that, because I think I'm quite sick of the fact that I'm not allowed to show myself aging, or I'm not allowed to show the effort behind trying to take care of myself. And so to me, the idea, the obsession with youth and beauty, these standards that I can never, ever hope to truly embody in a real way, makes me feel like a clown. Makes me feel like I'm a childish, ridiculous fool trying to keep up. And that's what, when I think of drag, that's what I think of. Or the Joker. And when people say that, women aren't funny or talented or beautiful, it's not because they're not, it's because the audience they're seeking is other women. And it feels like the whole world, including how I'm seeing, is made for men. I'm made for men's consumption. And I don't like it.